Welcome everyone to Grief Reflections discussions on parental bereavement with Natalie and Carly. Welcome everyone. It's lovely to have you here tonight or today, whatever the time is where you are joining us. And first of all, we want to say how sorry we are for your losses. And also to keep in mind that the reason why we meet here is we've come together to not only due to the losses, but because we are all determined to walk the path of healing. So as we always start, Carly is going to light a candle and say hello to you guys too.
Thank you, Natalie. Just lighting a candle. Each week, if you haven't joined us before, each week at the beginning of our gathering, we always light a candle, and that's just to honour all the babies that have brought us here together. I'll just put that up there. Okay, so I think I was gonna start, Natalie, or did you want to speak a little bit more?
Yeah, I'll just say, I mean, today's topic is the first year of grief, and I just wanted to say that the first year, what we mean by that is the first time that you experience everything without your child or your baby. Traditionally, it has been in the past looked at that the first year is the hardest, or after a year you should be over, or people say, well, it's been a year now. So there has been a notion of that a year and then things should get better, and that's not what we want to not what we want to portray with the title. It's just that first period where grief is very intense, and that can be a year, can be longer, can be shorter. So in my case, I was reflecting on that. Definitely 18 to 24 months, it was really, really challenging. But that also is because of the personal situation that every one of us is in, and that will make the situation different. So some people that I've worked with are in crisis, like through a relationship or through family or other things that have come and piled up on top. And some of you who know my story is my mother committed suicide just a couple of months later. And all of that, your personal situation, will impact where you're at. So that is just as a pre-frame for the first year, not necessarily to be just a year and then get better. So Carly, do you start with the first question?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So the first question comes from Patty, and she writes, I have only been on this journey for 4 months. I keep seeing my son laying in the funeral home the night they told us he died, and I can't get beyond that. Are there any things I can do? I do find that reading poems and sayings about loss of our children very helpful. Some sites are Parents United in Loss and the Compassionate Friends USA. They also post lots of things for those who know us and explain how to react to us and speak with us, which is so very important. We need the support of others if we are to get through this journey in one piece. And yeah, I really, when we do the pre-discussion on these discussions, Natalie and I pick questions out that we think that we can answer. And this one really jumped out at me because I felt like I was reading my own words, simply because for maybe 2 years, when I would think of Christian, the first thing I would think about was him lying in this little cradle that they put him in a hospital. And I just remember I was sitting at the end of my hospital bed, and it was just me and him in the room, and it was just the most raw sort of, it was so much harder than when he was actually born, because when he was born it was the first time I saw him, so it was just beautiful. And obviously sad, but this time, the reality had started to sink in that he wasn't going to move, and his chest wasn't going to start rising. And so when I would go to bed at night, that would be when I'd think about him, all I could see was him lying dead in this cradle, and it was just such a horrible vision to have of him. And so what I started doing was going to bed listening to really beautiful orchestral pieces of music, and I might send you an email, Patty, and share some of those pieces with you. But I also started visualizing him not as a dead baby, but as just like a perfect being of light. And so I would just imagine him not being a baby that had died, but just as this perfect, whole, healthy being. And I ended up writing a visualization, kind of like a meditation for that, so I could repeat it over and over in my head at night, and I'd listen to the beautiful music, and I would think of him in a beautiful place, being healthy and whole and alive. And I would kind of create this connection to him, and to me it felt really strong, and it kind of lifted my spirits. And then that memory of him lying in the cradle, it's still there, like I think of it every now and then, but it has shifted, and it's back here now, and it's not the first thing I think of when I think of him. And I mean, that did take some time. That it wasn't like I thought of that visualization and then overnight it was fixed. It took some time, but it really did work for me. So maybe I might send you an email and let you know what that is. But hopefully within the next 5 to 6 months, I'm going to have that visualization recorded. I've got a beautiful musician friend who's going to be recording a beautiful piece of music to go with it. So, and that's going to be available for everyone to download. So, but I know you need this now because you can't wait that long. So, if we can have a chat about that, maybe that would be great. So, Natalie, do you want to take the next question?
Yeah, and just to add on to what you were saying, when you were speaking, actually, you reminded me that one part of the book I'm talking about how we represent the loss, and we represent the loss on the different modalities. So kinesthetic, so what we felt, auditory, what we heard. So for example, beeping sound, or it might be the sound of an emergency vehicle, and then could be visual things. It depends on the person's primary representation system. So if someone is very visual, it would have usually a visual image that comes back. If someone is very auditory, then it would be an auditory sound. Or if someone is very kinesthetic, it would be something like a felt sense. And part of that, what Carly, you have been describing, is broadening the representation of loss that we have, or widening. And that also, I think, ties into the theory of continuing bonds, which is now a newer theory around grief, where rather than say, oh, like in the past they said just forget your child and move on, they now encourage you to continue to have a continuing relationship. Doesn't mean like growing up your child with you, but having a relationship beyond death. So that can be the form of, as you were saying, imagining him as this light being, or having conversations with them, or writing them letters. So there's different ways in that. So the two things, one is the changing the representation of the loss, or adding images, that not just this one image in your case is there, and also texturing this relationship in a form that brings healing. So the next question that I'm going to speak about is Teresa's question, and she said, let me just read that, bring that up. So I have seen that since knowing why my baby died will not bring her back, what is the benefit? As a SIDS parent, I think knowing why would help me with the guilt. Maybe I'm just fooling myself. And I've been drawn to that question because I address this question, and that's a theological question around the why, called the question of theodicy. And I'll just read a little part of that. What I wrote is, so why do bad things happen to good people is the most common version of the theological question around why evil is possible in this world. And religious parents are faced with the question why a God permits the manifestation of evil, like the death of a child. And it's very common to actually ask that why question. It is, in essence, the way we want to make sense. And there is this innate knowing or belief or hope that once you know why, you're more relaxed, or you can accept more. But as you already said in your question, Teresa, is that it will not bring her back. So what's the benefit? And that's the thing, because knowing why might quench some thirst, but research and experience has shown that no answer to any why question will satisfy this wish for the right answer completely enough. So it is a natural thing that happens very, very often, and it comes back and again and again. It comes back after a long time. But one of the things that is important to know that any variation of this post-loss why can become a way to amplify loss. And the way with that is to focus or to work towards acceptance. So getting to acceptance is a way to take the semantic power out of why. So semantic, the word, if you accept, then if you come to more acceptance, then the why becomes less of a haunting question. Is there anything that you would like to add, Carly, with that?
Yeah, just that last bit that you said, then was that, yeah, I mean, it's not an easy thing to accept, but if that does happen for you, like that has happened for me, and I don't ask why at all anymore, and because at the end of the day, I might not ever really truly know that anyway, and I came to the realization that it's not going to make me feel any better. But yeah, I rarely ever ask why now. So yeah, no, that was great.
Just reminded something, and by acceptance, I don't mean thinking that is right or there was a purpose. That's not what I mean. So acceptance doesn't mean it's okay or it's right or I feel good about it, because it's not the same.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
You can accept that it's being, but it doesn't mean that I need to like it.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. I will look at the next question now. And this one comes from Eleanor. Give me a moment to bring it up. Okay. When my daughter Evie was stillborn, the hospital asked me if I would like what I would like to do with her ashes. I asked them what they normally do, and they said that they usually have them interred into the hospital memorial rose garden. So I told them to just do that. I now completely regret my decision. I wished I could have kept them. I had no idea. I am 4 months out, and I'm not sure how I can make myself feel any better about this. Any thoughts would be appreciated. Thank you so much. Okay, so I was put in that same situation, and I made the choice to take Christian's ashes home with me. I have a friend, a beautiful friend called Keelan, and we met. She lives in Perth as well, and her son had the same condition that my son had, and they were born in the same hospital. And that's how we came together to be friends. Now she's been through the exact same situation as you, where the hospital offered to take the ashes, and so she had her son's ashes interred into the Memorial Rose Garden, which it's a beautiful place, and she loves it there. But she does have some regret about not having those ashes at home with her. And so I have this gorgeous friend, Sue. She lives in Queensland, and she makes the most beautiful memorial jewellery. And she suggested that Keelan should go to the garden where her son's ashes have been interred, and just take a handful of the soil from if she knows where the spot was. If not, it doesn't matter because it's all in the same place. So she took a handful of soil, and then she sent it to my friend Sue, and she placed that into a beautiful piece of jewellery. I think it's a heart, actually. It's a little silver heart, and to her it's just precious because her son's ashes were in the earth. They're not in an urn or anything. They were literally placed into the earth, which is just so beautiful. So now, I mean, it sounds funny that she walks around with this beautiful silver necklace that has dirt in it, but to her that's her son. That's where her son is. So I mean, if you're not in a financial position to do something like that, you could always just go to that rose garden and just take a bit of the earth with you and bring that home. You know, whether you want to put it into a beautiful box or anything like that. And I mean, now she has that. She has a piece of him in her home. I actually wrote an entire article about this because I just felt so terrible for her. And we came up with some really lovely ideas. And this was for people that have buried their children and regretted burying their children instead of having them cremated and at home with them. And so we spoke about taking some earth from where the baby is, so their ashes are, or if their grave is somewhere, they can take a piece of the earth from there, and they can bring it home and plant a rose tree, and when the rose blooms, you can take the flowers and you can go and scatter the petals wherever you want, and it's just the same as scattering ashes. And we've done that a few times because we've only got a tiny amount of ashes just because Christian was so tiny. And it's a really beautiful healing experience to do that and to watch the flowers bloom. And so that's just a few ideas. At the end of the day, even if this is how I feel having Christian's ashes at home, and I think we spoke about this a little bit earlier, Natalie, is that you're just not. It's still not going to be right, even if you have Evie's ashes home with you. She's still gone, you know. So there's always going to be that. But now I want this, you know. You're never going to have enough of what you need because they're not here. They're always going to be gone. So yeah, I mean, I hope those ideas can give you some peace, or even some ideas of your own on how to make yourself feel better through that. But I will put the link to my website article. I think I wrote it for Still Standing magazine, actually. So I'll pop that up in the event for you to see if you want to have a read of that. Natalie, do you want to take the next question?
Yeah, a beautiful example you shared of creating meaning. It's the way on that topic, how to create meaning. And yeah, I could say more, but I'll take the next question. So the question is from Angela, and she says, Carly and Natalie, I lost my 2-year-old son 3.5 months ago, unexpectedly following an 8-month hospital stay and 7 months at home. There was a lot of training, lifestyle changes, and selfless dedication for each member of our family to bring this critically ill child home where he belonged. But as a family, we did it. He was with us at home for 7 months before we tragically lost him. My question is, what are the most healthy ways to handle the relationships that fall away in the months after your child dies? The friends that tirelessly encouraged and loved us in those first weeks have moved on with their lives and we cannot just move on. Sure, we have days that are hopeful and better than others, but our hearts will be broken for the rest of our lives. How do you stay hopeful that there is a community that will rally around your family in your desire to carry out the memory of your precious child? And that's a great question in terms of the friendship, the changes of friendship. And one of the things I wrote in the book is the difference between the friends or the people surrounding us. And I've read this in an article by Catherine Budivis talking about life after trauma. And she calls these people firefighters or builders. And I think this is a beautiful analogy where she expresses that surviving trauma requires the crisis squad, firefighters, and the reconstruction team, the builders. Not many people are good at both. And this is one reason why dealing with parental loss is a lonely experience. And I wrote in my book, this is why some friends will fall away and others will appear. One of the toughest additional challenges will be to forgive those who fail at one or both of those roles. On the other side, it is an enriching experience to find new companions who are able to support a grieving parent where they are. And Sean Hanish had a beautiful quote in our interview. He said, one of the most surprising aspects is how many friends I made and people I've connected with so deeply that are in this community of bereaved parents. And I think I want to encourage each and every one of you, and especially you, Angela, to open your heart and see what's there, and also allow the sadness and the grief for the people or the friends that maybe haven't got this builder capacity to be there and be there in those moments that require that. I think this is a common experience for grieving, not just parentally bereaved, but for the grieving community, because it is an intense time, and each and every one meeting a grieving person is reflecting on their own mortality, and that can bring up a lot of fear or angst or pain that can make them go away. So there's no excuse for that. But I think holding us up with trying to figure out why they're not here or how to make them come back is costing a lot of energy. And I think just like in general in life, there's friends that are here for a season, for a reason, for a lifetime, as this beautiful poem that I'm now half quoting is saying, and that is living with the change. And I'm not one to live easily with change, so, but it is the reality that not just people and friends change, but the whole situation with living a life without the child that you wanted to grow up with. Do you have anything that you can add to this?
I have nothing to add to that. That was amazing. I have nothing. I will take the next question, which comes from Stephanie, and she asks, what books do you suggest to help heal spiritually and mentally with grief? Natalie, I'm sure you've probably got some really good books to suggest as well. I'm going to share, I read this book by Louise L. Hay. I'm probably sure everyone has heard of this. You Can Heal Your Life. I actually read this book many times before I had Christian. I actually read it while I was very young. Like I was probably, oh goodness, maybe 18, thinking that I had all the trouble of the world on my shoulders, as you do when you're very young. And it helped me back then. And this is actually another copy. I don't know where the other copy went because it looked really different. This is a newer version. But this book has just changed my life. And I didn't reread it until probably a year after I had Christian. And that was simply because I felt like I needed to just experience my grief on my own without any influence from anyone else. I think I was a little bit paranoid about going down the wrong road, and I wanted to experience it for myself. And I don't regret that at all, actually. I don't regret to read anything on grief. But yeah, I definitely recommend, I mean, if you're obviously of that sort of nature, if you've asked that question, I definitely recommend that you read that book. I've got two other books here from two gorgeous women in our community, or three. Catherine Bailey and Stephanie Page Coles, To Linger on Hot Coals. I'm not going to give too much away about this book, but look them up on Facebook and get yourself a copy. It's written by bereaved mothers. It's poems and just the most... I don't want to get teary about it because it's just so amazing. I think I was able to have my first ever poem published in this book. I was invited to write for it, and I just feel really blessed to be included in such, just so many amazing writers in it. So that book changed my life as well. And then it depends on where you are and if you're able to get pregnant again, or if you are wanting to get pregnant again. But I completely recommend this book. Well, you can't see it very well in the light. My gorgeous friend, sister, business partner, Francesca Cox wrote this book. It's called Celebrating Pregnancy Again, and it's all about pregnancy after loss. And the subtitle is Restoring the Lost Joys of Pregnancy After the Loss of a Child, and it's just a really beautiful book. And the last one I wanted to share was what I'm reading now, which is, oh wow, it's terrible lighting, sorry, The Power of Now. And I can't really say too much about it yet only that I'm loving it. I'm only up to like chapter 3, but it's healing anxiety already for me, and it's allowing me to understand my own grief, even though it's not really about grief. It's about life in general. But yeah, probably not the greatest example, but it's just such an amazing book, and I think it will help you anyway. And then also I do have one more, and this is another Louise L. Hay book. Oh, wow, that light is so bad. Meditations to Heal Your Life, and it's just got a whole bunch of meditations for lots of different life circumstances, and grieving is one of them, and it's pretty radical, but I absolutely love it. So I'm sure, Natalie, you have some books that you would want to mention.
Yeah, well, I could add, we could add another half an hour, but there's just a new book that has come out by Louise Hay and David Kessler, which is called You Can Heal Your Heart, or...
Yes, that's right, yeah.
That's the new one that is specifically about grief. I don't have my books here because they're still packed. And the other book, and also from the community one, is called Sunshine After the Storm, a collection of stories of bereaved mothers and fathers. So Sunshine After the Storm, have a look for that. I enjoy reading stories from that book. There's one for dads, To the Brink and Back. And you know, each book needs to be looked at. It needs to help you, and you need to find something that speaks to you. I mean, personally for me, and I'm actually just making this resource page on grievingparents.net with a lot of those resources, which are also in the book. So I will paste the link to that as well on the event wall for you to have a look at. But as Carly was speaking of The Power of Now, that's a beautiful book for spiritual opening, and it takes a while to read it, so to go slow with that. Another book that I truly enjoyed, not so much grief related, but is The Way of the Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman. It's also really a spiritual awakening book. There's really so many, and I think not to just mention grief books, but I believe grief is a part of my life for my growth, for my spiritual growth, mental growth, emotional growth, and so forth. So it's on the whole, it requires something that helps you on all levels. Did you want to say anything else, or Carly, or shall we end on that note?
I think maybe just quickly, well, we've got a couple of minutes left. For people that are going to watch this down the track, and I think, yeah, when we were speaking earlier about the first year and how it's not about healing after 1 year, but it's more about in the first year of grief, you kind of experience the first of so many things. So we experience our first Mother's Day, first Father's Day, first birthday, first due date, first anniversary of their death, first Christmas, first Easter, first, you know, whatever holiday it is. And I don't really like giving people advice, but I will share my experience, and that is just to be as gentle on yourself as possible. And there's no magic answer to get out of this. You have to experience it. And so, yeah, just to be as gentle as possible and just do whatever is right for you and your family and your own experience. And always reach out for help if you need it. So that's all I really wanted to say to end that.
Yeah, and I think you bring it to make a point of that. It is being mindful of what it is that we can manage, and the first phase, I call it the allowing phase, meaning there's not much else that I remember that I'm able to do to breathe, and then the next obvious thing, okay, have a sip of water, and then it is really intense, and support is needed, and it is one thing at a time. That's, for example, the very beginning. So I encourage you guys as well, if there's things that have helped you, and as Carly was saying, not about giving advice, but saying this is what I have done is always a beautiful way to say, you know, share it. Go to grievingparents.net, and under the blog where we're going to post this video, share your perspective on the first year or the first phase of grief, the first of everything, and or leave a comment in the comment section, even using Facebook or your blog links as well if you want to blog about that. And yeah, let's keep this up as a continuing support of each other. So part of that you can either do on the event wall, or you can do it on the post that I'm going to do on grievingparents.net. And if you like this Grief Reflections, please subscribe to Healing Conversations channel on YouTube. There's going to be more of that, and Carly has some beautiful more projects to come just next week. If you want to say something about that now, or...
Oh yeah, so I did write that down, but I'd forgotten, so thank you for mentioning that. If you're not aware, well, it depends on where you are in the world. If you're in America, it's probably on the 18th of August, and everywhere else, I think, would be the 19th. We are having our first ever worldwide online August 19th Day of Hope ceremony, and it's going to be streamed live around the world. We've got 7 other beautiful speakers and it's going to run just like an actual remembrance ceremony. So if you've ever been to one, we're going to try and make it like that as much as possible for everyone. And if you haven't ever been to a remembrance ceremony for your baby, would be a wonderful opportunity for you to join us. We're going to be, you'll be able to just stay at home and watch on your computer. It'll be all streamed live all over Facebook, all over. There's a lot of charities and organisations supporting this, so you should be able to really pretty much watch it anywhere. But if you come to my Facebook page at Carly Marie, one word, and click on the events page, you'll be taken through to the August 19th Prayer Flag Project page, and that's where, if you click on join, you don't have to make a prayer flag, that's fine, but if you click on join, you'll be able to receive all the updates on the exact times for that event. So we would really love to have as many people joining us, as it's going to be probably a first. I don't think this has been done before, so we're really excited about it. So thanks, Natalie, for reminding me, because I would have gone, oh, damn, I should have said that. But yeah, we look forward to having everyone.
Anything that Carly takes in her hand turns out beautifully. I can speak from my own experience. So
hopefully, I've got to run it. I've got to control everyone's sound, and so and I'm sure I know it's going to be beautiful. It will be.
It will be. I'm sure about that. So if you want to have more great advice and support through Grief to Healing, plus some personal insight we talk about in our email, as well as me letting you know about any more events that are coming up, please go to www.grievingparents.net and sign up for email updates. So keep reflecting, let us know how you're going with your journey, because the world needs your story and your insight to become better equipped at dealing with the challenges like grief and support the grieving. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.